You worked during the pandemic as an essential worker, and now as the pandemic starts to ravage again with a new rage of COVID-19 cases across the country and concerns about another lockdown, will you get hazard pay this time around? And if you're a viewer who is on SSDI and SSI and Social Security, you're seeing the price of milk and eggs going through the roof. So are you going to get that second stimulus check? But more importantly, are you going to get a third stimulus check? And are you going to get retroactive stimulus checks? This is a continuation of checks, and this is Purple on Afternoons LALATE. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm here, you're here, as the winds have finally settled down. I can't say that the same about the Wall Street and the stock market. The stock market is going absolutely berserks after COVID-19 cases went through the roof, and the numbers are not settling down. A new report, which I'll be going over shortly, is quite discerning. Go to the Funnest channel, subscribe, because no one's going to keep you more up to date through all the thick and thin and all the wind gusts and Dorothy and Toto events of the day like I am. I really appreciate you for joining me on this incredible Monday afternoon. Thank you for joining. Subscribe and make sure you hit the alert to the Funnest channel so you get an alert when a new video goes live on a 5-hour programming block every day here on Afternoons LALATE. Also, like this video. Coming up after this is McConnell versus Trump, big developments, and then Pelosi versus Mnuchin, big developments on that as well. In this video, I will be going over why new feared lockdowns are so important for your stimulus check, because ultimately you didn't get paid for the last lockdown. And if there's another lockdown coming, you better get paid up on the old one before we started doing the second one, the new one. Additionally, liquidity is more important than ever. You need to have money in the bank, and banks need to have money, and you need grants and loans, and you need this money right now. Additionally, I want you to consider all the types of grants that are out there. I'm going to help you in this video get the grants. I'm going to help you find the people that can help you get the grants, and the viewers of this channel are going to align and help one another. Finally getting your money now. It's important to get your money now, because ultimately what may happen is that as we ravage into a third pandemic or a third stimulus check period, you may not get the second one while we're wondering where the third one is. All right, let's get to the breaking news. The breaking news is the COVID-19 cases. Wall Street crashed today amid horrible COVID-19 data coming out on Friday and Saturday. 83,000 new COVID-19 cases, breaking all-time daily records of 70,000 for the month of July, and the number is expected to get worse. Millions of businesses across the country are now fearing lockdowns, shuttering of businesses, and lack of liquidity. And Wall Street is jitterish. Wall Street is concerned that 1, there could be lockdowns, 2, there could be no stimulus in place, 3, there could be massive unemployment, and 4, there's no leadership in place to deal with the situation. The president sort of passed off the COVID-19 numbers on Saturday, saying it's a made-up story for purposes of an election year, and that you won't hear about COVID-19 cases in 8 days from now. Spoiler alert, you will. And that the COVID is a fake virus, and that millions of Americans should vote for him. The question is, with a lack of clarity about COVID, why is there also a lack of clarity about stimulus? Millions of Americans have been told by this president, or whether it's Pete Navarro or Larry Kudlow, that the economy is doing great and it doesn't need stimulus. That's not what the Wall Street executive said today. Wall Street traded down severely. And this was before the following. Food and Drug Administration former Commissioner Dr. Scott Gottlieb, told CNBC, we're likely to see a very dense epidemic. He's predicting the situation could get very worse. How badly? Over the past 7 days, the country has reported an average of 68,000 new COVID-19 cases a day, the highest 7-day average ever reported on the record, according to Johns Hopkins. The chart showing COVID-19 cases is absolutely out of control. We're likely to see a very dense epidemic, and I think right now we're at the cusp of what could be an exponential spread in parts of the country. How big could this be? The concern is that the numbers could be very high. More than 20 states right today, this afternoon, are at record all-time highs of COVID-19 cases, and that includes the Dakotas, Wisconsin, Montana, and Idaho. We had one more cycle to get through with this. I know people are exhausted. It's been very hard for families and businesses. This is going to be the hardest phase, probably. The concern is ICU and bedding, that these hospitals are starting to be overrun and that there is starting to be a run on certain services. And that is what we talk about when we talk about hazard pay, frontline workers. As families continue to get together for Thanksgiving, they really need to think twice about bringing their elderly parents and their younger kids and college kids in contact with another, because I think we're going to go through one of the most dangerous times here in U.S. history. That's what Gottlieb said this morning. Assistant Secretary of Health Administration says, I think we can control the pandemic. Others disagree. The problem as you sit here today is, where is that hazard pay? Will you get hazard pay? Will you get hazard pay going forward, and will you get going back? Let me explain what's going on here. There's different types of hazard pay, and I haven't detailed this in a couple days. And I know there's a lot of new viewers on this channel, so welcome. Let me explain to you what you're owed and how you need to get it. First, let's talk about hazard pay. You're entitled to employer-employee hazard pay, state and employee hazard pay, and then federal hazard pay. Generally, when people talk about hazard pay, they think about the federal hazard pay because it became such a big rallying cry of this channel. $10,000 under the HEROES Act. If you were just an essential worker from the beginning of the pandemic, anytime all the way up to the present, $13 an hour, calculated by the number of hours, up to $10,000. If you made less than $100,000 in 2019 earnings, if you made more than $100,000, you get $5,000. Lump sum, land in your bank account. If you're not at that threshold, you would get paid up to that threshold and then continue to get paid until you're at that threshold. The problem is, it got removed. The bill was there, the provision was in the bill, and then it got removed in the last few weeks by Nancy Pelosi. But that is that. We're not done with that. Then there is CDC hazard pay-ish frontline worker grants in the bill. It pays you grants, not loans, grants, if you're a frontline worker, but it's not for all frontline workers. Then there's EIDL grants. That's also for frontline workers. Again, not for all frontline workers. It's for independent contractors or sole practitioner frontline workers. And finally, EIDL loans, which is available to all frontline workers, but again, those are independent contractors. Finally, you have state and local, and you have city and state. Those have $150 billion of CARES Act 1 money that they're still sending out, use or lose. And of that money, they're sending out for stimulus checks, rent, food, hazard pay, and similar. I've had viewers drop in the comments routinely, so let me answer this question. I see it a lot. I'm a senior on SSDI. I don't qualify for hazard pay. I don't qualify for an EIDL loan. I don't get any of these things. No. You qualify for rent. You qualify for food. You qualify for stimulus check for state and local. Absolutely, categorically, you qualify for these things. I've had viewers who have listened to me and have gone out and gotten these things. Rent, food. So let me go over this a little bit slower for you. If you are a person who does not work, because let's say you're a senior citizen, then you would qualify for rent and food and stimulus checks that are being offered on state and local across the country. Next, if you do work, then you would qualify for anything that is tied to work issues, like EIDL grants, CDC grants, hazard pay grants, and things like that. Then, if you're a person who that is all of the above, then you would also include rent in there. It's very, very, very straightforward. The hardest thing of it is finding it. And ultimately, that's the spirit of this channel. People helping one another. About 3 weeks ago, I launched what's called Purple Power Delegates. You go on Twitter and you type into Twitter's search bar, hashtag P, the letter P for purple, then the 2 letters of your state. So if you're in New York, hashtag PNY space, hashtag LALATE. And then you'll find people who have said, I will step up and I will be a delegate and help find you the grants if they exist. And similarly, if you're one of the people that wants to step up, then they'll help you. You may not find someone in your state, but you may find someone in another state, and the analysis is very simple. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be going on to Google News, and you can do this yourself as well yourself. They'll be going on to Google News and looking for grant plus city, and then if you want to put in plus CARES Act, CARES Act. And then you want to do that same thing for the county. What's happening is that all these cities and counties across the country are suddenly using this money right now for stimulus checks, hazard pay, FPUC, rent, and all these type of things on they don't call it FPUC, of course, on a local basis, and they're sending it out now. And it may not be there today, it may be there tomorrow. And these windows of applications are very, very narrow. And these people are, as a family, as a community, which I built on here on this channel, people are here to help one another. And so ultimately, if you don't find a delegate, ask someone else in the Purple Power community if they can search for something for you, and they will. Next, we then go to the issue of hazard pay for purposes of law and EIDL grant and EIDL loan for purposes of law. This is going back to the Purple Power Caucus. The Purple Power Caucus has to step up very loud and vocal and be very vocal because the bill has not been approved. There's no agreement between Nancy Pelosi and Steve Mnuchin. There may never be an agreement between Nancy and Steve Mnuchin because ultimately the president may lose on election night. He may contest the election and maybe still lose. And then ultimately whatever Steve and Nancy agree upon may not become anything. So what's important to understand is you need to start the movement now for what needs to be put into a second or third combined stimulus package. And it should have in there hazard pay, of course. Why is it taken out? It needs to be in there. So how much hazard pay? Well, and what are the provisions? Well, and how does it need to be written? Well, that's what you do. You go on Twitter and you type in the hashtag Purple Power Hazard Pay. And you'll see people part of the caucus who are discussing the issue of hazard pay. They want hazard pay back in the bill. They don't want to take it out. They think that frontline workers should be paid hazard pay. And let's be clear. We're talking about frontline workers who didn't get paid when the pandemic first hit, when the lockdowns were first announced. We're not even talking about the hazard pay coming into the fall. And that is a big issue. And provisions that you'll think about are that Nancy Pelosi's bill was $10,000. $5,000 if you made a certain amount of money, so it reduces it. But there was a very, very, very bad provision in there that said the employer applies for hazard pay, not you. Oh my goodness. Every single day someone sends me a DM and says, how do I apply for hazard pay? I did this and how do I go get it? You can't. Nancy Pelosi doesn't want you applying for it. She wrote the bad bill as a way that says the employer will apply or shall apply or may apply. And yes, it's discretionary. So the employer may not apply if they don't feel in the mood to apply. That doesn't work. That does not work. Hence, you need to make that heard, Purple Power. Purple Power Caucus. What is Purple Power? Purple Power is a name that I created to describe the community of this channel. And they stand up, not Republican, not Democratic, and they stand up to get the stimulus that they're owed, going forward and backwards as well. Next, the important thing to understand locally also is the relationship between you and your employer. So if you work at Kroger, or you work at Whole Foods, or you work at Amazon or Walmart, there have been big issues across the country. They don't call it hazard pay, they call it bonus pay. For an obvious reason, they don't want to say their place is dangerous or hazardous, so they call it bonus pay. So a lot of them paid the bonus pay in the spring, but then when the businesses had less people in the store, you didn't see lines around the corner like it's a Star Trek premiere, you had less people in the store, they said, oh, we don't need to pay that anymore. And then started the protests. And some of those protests have been successful. Ultimately, you may see that more in the fall. And this is also important for my viewers who are on SSDI or SSI and Social Security, because ultimately, businesses need to start spending money on you and us. And that if all you see is businesses raising the price of milk, raising the price of food, raising the price of eggs, then we have a big problem. What is that problem? It's called stagflation, S-T-A-G, stagflation. It means when the economy is flat or getting worse, and prices are going up, that's what causes a depression. You need to ensure that doesn't happen. Let me go over some quite old questions and comments for yesterday's video. And a lot of people were talking about the issue of stagflation. Aloha, the laws need to be changed so that whatever country encounters a pandemic, Congress doesn't have the power to hold over our stimulus. Edward Booth, we only got 9 days. We got to do this. LA, we need our stimulus checks. You don't only have 9 days. That's only for executive orders. And if you watched the video before this, I said, hey, you know what? This president is really not on message. He's not on message about stimulus. He's not on message about the pandemic. Purple Power Caucus is focusing on everything past 9 days. Jessica Costin, we need $6,000 stimulus checks so everyone can catch up. Natasha, oh my God, let's get these stimulus checks coming. Lionel, the delay only solidifies that the politicians think we work for them. Terry Buckner, the difference being John Cook. Here we go again, the games people play every day and night. Evelyn Nether, it would be a tearjerker because it's so sad. Karen Holland, she reminds me, Nancy Pelosi, reminds me of the evil woman of the Wizard of Oz. Kim D'Alelio, so the Congress, the House and Senate can close while we the people are starving and penniless. Yes, the House and Senate are now closed as of the end of today. Chris Green, it's our money. We demand the release. Kathy Lee, our governors are for re-election. I posted off topic, but still rightly the topic. We need executive orders right now. Samuel Orteminson, to quote a rock and roll group, we are one. Purple Power's in the house. I love that, Samuel. Ricky, she's off her rockers. Eric, it's just sad that people like myself can barely get through this. Rachel, we need executive order, and not $500, but more for what we're owed and needs to be retroactive. That's what the Purple Power Caucus talks like. Need more money. $500 ain't gonna cut it. M. Tinkerbell, I gotta crush the virus. 60 or 16. I feel like Nancy's blowing up smoke. Betty Black, we're strong, we're heard, we are Purple Power. Teresa, does she really believe what's coming out of her mouth is true? Jeannie, at my age, I've seen people that were high that could think, reason, and talk straighter than many of these politicians. Scott Watson, I went to the casino, I shouted, where's the beef? Oh my goodness. Brenda Thomas, LALATE, Purple Power, and Caucus. Heidi, hey Purple Power guys, sounds like we have 50 plus people sitting in the House, Senate with their arms crossed and scowls on their face. Let's put a hot cocoa and s'mores and get them smiling. I love that. Thanks again, LA. Well, thank you, Heidi. Michael Rancy, stop being a Nancy. Nancy, give us our money right now. Love what you're doing and keep it up. Get our money, LA. Thank you. I appreciate it. Go to the front channel, subscribe, because, you know, we're all getting your money together. It's just not just me. It's also you. We're part of this incredible community, and please join and be part of this community. Also, like this video. Coming up next is McConnell versus Trump. Can't miss that, because that's going to be a blockbuster of a video. As always, stay informed, stay smiling, and stay at that life for more.